The Stranger Things 5 Volume 2 trailer is finally out, and uncovered some insane hidden details that change everything. The trailer opens with Will saying,
"We failed. We never stood a chance."
Followed by Dustin admitting that they were completely wrong about everything. And that line is a direct setup for what episode 7 titled The Bridge is actually about. In another scene, we see Dustin, Nancy, Jonathan, and Steve enter the Hawkins lab inside the Upside Down. And here, they'll finally uncover the real truth behind what this place is and what's been happening since season 1. The Upside Down isn't its own natural dimension at all. It's a bridge dimension, a gap created between our world, aka the right side up, and something far older and far more dangerous known as Dimension X. This bridge was formed back in the season 4 flashbacks when 11 banished Henry into Dimension X, unknowingly destabilizing the boundary between realities. And when 11 later made contact with the Demogorgon in season 1, she didn't just open a gate, she opened the Mother Gate, the moment when our world physically brushed against Dimension X for the first time, creating the Upside Down exactly as we know it. That's why Dustin says they were dead wrong about everything, because the threat was never just Vecna, never just the monsters, and never even the Upside Down itself. It was always what existed beyond it. This leads directly into the shots in the trailer where we see that strange glowing energy sphere forming above Dustin and Steve, and then again almost identically opening near Jonathan and Nancy. Those aren't random visual effects, they're the direct aftermath of the shock signal imploding from inside the Upside Down, something we briefly see flash across the trailer. When that signal collapses inward, it doesn't just weaken the walls between worlds, it causes Dimension X to bleed directly into the Upside Down, forcing the bridge dimension to destabilize and partially merge with its source. That's why these energy rifts appear simultaneously in multiple locations. They're not gates in the traditional sense, they're pressure points, moments where Dimension X is pushing through the Upside Down as it collapses under the strain. And the timing matters because this is the first time we've ever seen the Upside Down stop acting like a buffer and start behaving like it's being overridden. In other words, the bridge is breaking and what's on the other side is finally coming through. This leads us to another huge detail the trailer quietly reveals, the moment where Vecna is kneeling in the chamber where the kidnapped children are held. And the way it's framed matters because he isn't kneeling in defeat or exhaustion, he's kneeling in reverence, as if he's bowing to something above or beyond, something we never actually see on screen. That imagery lines up perfectly with what the first Shadow play tells us. Henry didn't just simply disappear because of Brenner. He vanished using his early experimental tech, and when he returned, he was changed. Different blood type, altered psychology, the exact same kind of wrongness we later see with Will in season 2, and that change came with something else, influence. Not ownership of power, but contact with something that already had it. By season 4, when 11 banishes Vecna into Dimension X, we finally see the truth. The Mind Flayer particles already exist there. Long before Henry arrives, he doesn't create them, he discovers them. And when he shapes them into the spider-like form, that isn't proof of dominance, it's proof of interpretation. So when we see Vecna kneeling here, it reframes everything. He isn't the god of this world, he's the chosen vessel of something far older, something that was waiting in Dimension X long before Hawkins ever cracked open. We then get to another huge moment in the trailer, Holly and Max stepping through that mysterious door. And this isn't just a cool visual, it's loaded with setup. Back in Volume 1, Mike tells Holly that Holly the Heroic can cast a dimension door. And that line isn't throwaway dialogue, it's straight up foreshadowing, because now in the trailer we'll literally see a door appear out of nowhere, suggesting that Holly is doing exactly that, accessing her memories to create an exit. And Mike's words matter here. I think that speech is what anchors her, the same way Max escaped Vecna by focusing on good memories. This is a memory within a memory. Holly isn't opening a random door, she's building one from something familiar and safe. That's why the door looks so much like Mike's bedroom door. Just like Max used music and memories to run, Holly's using the idea of home and the belief that she's a hero to escape Camazotz. In other words, this is imagination, memory, and connection, the exact tools Stranger Things has always used to fight the darkness. But later, we see that Holly ultimately fails and Vecna eventually tracks her down. This leads into another curious detail in the trailer, Vecna shifting between two different outfits and then eventually transforming into the monstrous version we know now. If my earlier theory is correct that Vecna isn't fully conscious and is still being influenced by the Mind Flayer, this behavior actually makes sense. There's real foreshadowing here. Why would Vecna mail Holly her favorite song if he didn't want her to escape? That song is literally her lifeline, probably the only way she can escape. He isn't switching costumes for style, he's half aware. there, still under the Mind Flayer's control. This is why he feared to enter that cave. And notice that in the scene where Vecna is kneeling, the environment around him looks almost like a mouth. Those jagged shapes in front resemble teeth. We even get subtle foreshadowing earlier that this could be tied to something closer to Tiamat, the dragon figure who prepares his scorpion men for war. That connection matters, especially since Holly also notices scorpions back in volume 1. And of course, this could still point to the Mind Flayer, but the visual language here suggests that there may be something even older and more mythic at play. Every detail of the song, the outfits, the monstrous transformation all points to Vecna being a vessel, not the true mastermind. Next, we see Mike standing in a location that looks unmistakably like the Upside Down, thanks to the blue environment and the red electrical streaks in the sky. We catch a glimpse of him reuniting with Dustin, which is a big emotional beat, signaling that the team is coming back together. Then there's a shot of Dustin with Robin, Lucas, and Will in the truck, obviously coming together to rescue Hopper, Eleven, and now Kali. This sequence sets up the payoff we've been waiting for, Kali stepping in to help Eleven confront Vecna. That explains the later shot of Eleven with a bandana over her eyes and headphones on, entering her psychic state. She's tapping into her abilities at full power, preparing to finally take the fight to Vecna alongside Kali. They're carefully planting the path to the final showdown. After the team reunites, they'll inevitably split up again, which seems to set Lucas on a path toward Max in the hospital, and based on what we know, Vecna will likely have the demo dogs targeting her. And in another shot, we see Robin alongside the military being chased down by demo dogs, reinforcing just how widespread and coordinated the threat has become. Then there's that trailer shot of Robin cranking up the voltage, which looks like it's directly connected to that Demogorgon being shocked, and that almost certainly ties into the Shock Jock episode. I think this episode also links to Steve, the original high school jock, especially considering Robin's line in episode 1 warning him not to fry from the voltage, and his actor mentioning that episode 5 was his favorite for his character. That's why I think the scene of Will yelling run is actually him warning Steve. And when you line up all of this subtle foreshadowing, the demo dogs, the electricity, the episode placement, and the callbacks to Steve's arc, it all points to the sequence happening in episode 5, perfectly choreographed by the Duffers. Next, we're taken to two of the creepiest moments in the trailer. The first shows Henry Creel, aka Vecna, standing alone in the rain, but look closely at the background, that's the Creel house. This is likely the exact moment he realizes Holly is gone, which explains why Holly and Max are desperately trying to escape without ever going back there. It also clarifies why we see Vecna actively pursuing her in this scene. He knows she's slipping out of his control, and the Creel house is where his awareness fully snaps into focus. And then we get the scene where Will has another one of his power moments, his eyes white once again. What I think is happening here is that Will is deliberately using the Demogorgon to open a gate. That would explain why. In the following shot, we see them already there. The final and the most important detail in this trailer is the discovery of what the Upside Down actually is in Hawking's lab. Dustin flat out says that everything they thought they understood about the Upside Down has been dead wrong. In season 5 volume 1, Scott Clark is shown explaining wormholes to his students. Earlier, I suggested that the Upside Down itself was the bridge, but now that idea starts to click in a much bigger way. In this framework, the red portion of the diagram represents Dimension X, while the blue shows the Upside Down. And that strange organic goo we see in the trailer, it's likely the result of Dimension X binding with the Upside Down. Also, Steve and Dustin are gonna be fine. You Die I Die freaks me out every time. If you want a deeper dive, check out my full video predicting the ending of Stranger Things 5, and don't forget to watch this other video.